then court allows such oral evidence which are direct evidence. If oral evidence is given that of a fact which can be seen, the person who has seen, he will depose. Or a person, if oral evidence is given that regarding something which can be heard, the evidence must be of the person actually who has heard it. So that is clearly mentioned in section 60 of the Evidence Act. What it's oral evidence must be direct, or oral evidence must in all cases whatsoever be direct. That is to say, when it refers to a fact which can be seen, then it must be of the evidence of a person who says he saw it. If it refers to a fact which can be heard, then it must be of a person who has heard it. If it refers to a fact which can be perceived by any sense, then it must be of a person who has perceived that. If it refers to a fact regarding an opinion, then it must be the evidence of the person who holds that opinion. But section 32 and 33 are exceptions to section 60. That is hearsay evidence. Hearsay evidence is no evidence. Because in section 60 of the Indian Evidence Act, it has been clearly provided that all oral evidence, whatever, must be direct. So unless there is no direct evidence, no oral evidence will be admissible. But here section 32 and 33 are the exceptions to the hearsay rule. What it says, that statement of some persons, statements by persons who cannot be called as witnesses. When a person is called as a witness, a person is called as a witness when he comes to the court, takes oath, and faces the cross-examination of the accused, or in a civil case from the other side, then that evidence of that person is taken and he is called as a witness. Unless a person is a witness, his evidence is not taken. How a person will become a witness? Who will become a witness? That means a person is a witness who comes to the court and deposes on oath and is cross-examined. Then only his version, his statement is taken as evidence. But here in this section 32 and 33, there is provision, statement by persons who cannot be called as a witness, as because he is not found, he is dead, his attendance cannot be procured without unreasonable delay or expense. In such case, that such statement is admissible. In section 32 and 33, these two sections provide statement by a person who cannot be called as a witness is admissible as relevancy of facts, that is admissible in evidence. This section 32 says, cases in which statement of relevant fact by persons who is dead, who cannot be found, or whose attendance cannot be procured without unreasonable delay or expense, then his statement is admissible in evidence, though that person is not a witness in court. Rule is that if a person is a witness, when a person becomes witness, he comes to the court, he takes oath and he is examined in chief, thereafter he is cross-examined, then he is a witness. Then his statement is in whole taken in evidence as a evidence of a witness. But here in section 32, there are certain persons, their statements can be taken into evidence, though they are not witnesses, though they do not come to the court, though they do not face the cross-examination, though they do not take the oath in court. What is this section? These provisions are in section 32 and 33 of the Evidence Act. What it states? Statement, what type of statement? Either written or verbal of relevant facts. So that means that fact relevant facts. A fact is said to be relevant if that is coming within any of the provisions of relevancy facts chapter. So statement either verbally or in writing of relevant facts made by a person who is dead, who cannot be found, or who becomes incapable of giving evidence, or whose attendance cannot be procured without an amount of delay or expense, which under the circumstance of the case it appears to the court unreasonable. These are the circumstances. First, a witness is dead. A person is dead. Statement of a not witness is not used here. A person. A statement of a person who is dead or who cannot be found or who is incapable of giving evidence. Suppose a person previously, now he has given a statement. Now he has become insane. He is not in a position to understand the question put to him and to give a rational answer. Now he is incapable of giving it. Now he is in coma. That person is coma stage, or he is unable. He is in suffering from such a disease that unable to hear. So he is now incapable of giving evidence. That person is dead. Cannot be found. Cannot be found means his whereabouts is not known. Previously he had given a statement. It cannot be found. Or incapable of giving evidence. Now he is not in a position to give evidence. Or whose attendance cannot be procured without unreasonable delay or expense in the circumstance of the case as the court considers that is unreasonable. That means a person is in America or in Australia, or he is an old man, now he is in Canada. His attendance cannot be procured without unreasonable delay or expense. Then unreasonable are themselves relevant facts in the following cases. So whose statement? He is not a witness, but statement of a person, as because he is dead or his attendance he cannot be found, he is incapable of giving evidence, or his attendance cannot be procured due to unreasonable delay or heavy expense or delay, then that statements of what type of statement? That statement must be of relevant fact. Not, if it is not relevant to the case, then that is not admissible in evidence. Only that must be statement must be in relation to relevant fact of a person who is dead, who cannot be found, incapable of giving evidence, or whose attendance cannot be procured as per the opinion of the court that there will be unreasonable delay, there will be heavy expense. Then in such case, those statements becomes relevant in following 8 cases, 8 circumstances. What are those first 8 circumstances? The first is when it relates to cause of death. When it relates to cause of death. Though we know it is related to cause of death is popularly known as dying declaration, the word dying declaration has not been mentioned in this section. What it says? Statement of a person is dead. Only the statement of a person who is dead regarding which causes of death, only a person is dead, then his statement regarding cause of death is admissible. It is popularly known as dying declaration. That means a declaration, any statement given either orally or in writing by a person regarding the cause of his death or the circumstances of the transaction which resulted in his death is relevant as per section 32 clause 1. What it says? When the statement is made by a person as to the cause of his death. What is that statement? That statement may be either orally or in writing as to the cause of his death, regarding cause of his death, or as to any of the circumstances of the transaction. You should understand the word circumstances of the transaction. So transactions, that means some events, circumstances of the event, some events which are connected, which resulted to his death. In case in which the cause of that person's death comes into question. So what it says? Such statements are relevant whether the person who made them was or was not at the time when they were made under expectation of death, and whatever may be the nature of the proceeding in which the cause of his death comes into question. You try to understand this section by word. Sometimes there is demand there should be a discussion on a lecture method. But I never follow this method because you should learn the law by word. Once you know to interpret the section, then automatically you will be fundamentally clear and you will apply this common sense in applying the law to a particular situation. What it says? A statement is given of a person made by a person. What for? As to cause of his death. What is the cause? What is the reason of his death? Or to any of the circumstances of the transaction. Not circumstances of the transactions. All the events which resulted in his death, in case in which the cause of that person's death comes into question. Only when the cause of that person's death is in causes or comes in question before the court, then that statement becomes relevant. Then such statements are relevant whether the person who made them was or was not at the time when they make under expectation of death. Why such a thing, such a paragraph is added? Because in English law, the statement, dying declaration of a person is admissible in evidence when he gives that statement, he had given that statement in expectation of imminent death. But in India, the law of dying declaration is different from England. What it says? Here at the time made whether expectation of death or not, or at the time when they were made under expectation of death or not. And whatever may the nature of the proceeding, even in civil proceeding, criminal proceeding, any other proceeding, when the cause of death is to be decided, when the cause of death comes into question, that statement is admissible. But in England, only regarding in criminal case that is admissible, not in civil proceeding. This is the difference between the Indian law and the law of England regarding dying declaration. So, what is state? You understand? Then we'll discuss in detail with reference to appreciation of this evidence of dying declaration. While appreciating the statement as a dying declaration in evidence, what precautions are to be taken? What measures are to be taken to believe it or not to believe it? First, what is dying declaration? Dying declaration name from nomenclature show any declaration, any statement given by a person regarding the cause of his death or regarding the circumstances of any transaction, all the transactions which resulted in death. then that is admissible. Whether that person had given that statement while in expectation, imminent expectation of death, were they expecting death or not. So that is admissible, and that is admissible in whatever be the proceeding, in both in civil and as well as in criminal proceeding, when the question of the cause of his death comes in dispute. So here, now, that is dying declaration. Or that statement, a statement will be treated as dying declaration, that must be clear. There must not be any ambiguity in the statement. Suppose the deceased gives a statement that a particular person, naming a particular person who caused his death. The identity of that person must be clear. The name, address, identity of that person must be clear. Suppose there are two persons of a same name in a particular village, but the name of one person is there. So it is not clear which of those two persons caused the death. So in such case, that is defective, that may not be relied. So before relying the dying declaration, implicating somebody, if the deceased implicates somebody, the name and address, identity of that person must be clear. Suppose that must be full, that must be intelligible. The evidence, that statement must be clearly intelligible. If it is not suppose a person says, a person while sustaining injury, he gave a statement that Mr. Ramo, then he died. That will not be a dying declaration, because the statement is not complete. That statement does not show the actual person who caused the death, doesn't show the real cause, the cause of his death, or the circumstances of the transaction leading to his death. Suppose a woman was ravished and she had sustained any injury. She gave a statement that accident why ravished her, and they also caused any wound or wound on her neck or on her chest, and thereafter she died. Then all such statements are admissible, because the statements that is the cause of death, that is a relationship, the commission of rape, etc. So even any suicidal note, prior to suicidal note, if a person committing suicide gives a statement in writing regarding the circumstances or the cause of his death, that is admissible in evidence as per the provisions of section 32 clause 1. Why such statement is admissible in evidence? Because he is not a witness. If that person is dead, he is not coming to the court, but somebody comes to the court and deposes that he has heard it, that person had given a statement. That is a hearsay evidence. That is not admissible in evidence as per the provisions of section 60. But that is admissible evidence as per the provisions of section 32 clause 1. First, because of necessity. First thing, that the person deceased knows who is his assailant, who caused his death. The deceased is the competent, the best person to know who is the real culprit, who caused his death, who is responsible for his death. Second, a person who is contemplating death, who expects a death, it is a common sense that he will never tell lie, because truth will always sit on the lip of the person who is about to die. Because no person will falsely implicate somebody when he is about to die, because the sanctity of oath, the requirement of oath, that is complied as he is expecting his death. So a person who is about to die will never tell lie, because when he will die, he will meet the Almighty. He will not go with the sin of telling lie to his Almighty after his death. That is the reason behind it. What is that? That is the best evidence. Because of best evidence is the person who is the deceased. he knows who caused his death. Second is that because a person who is expecting death, normally he will not tell lie. Always truth sits on the lip of a person who is about to die. The requirement of oath, that oath, or taking oath, a witness deposes, that is complied because he is expecting death. So that is why it is admissible in evidence as per this as dying declaration. For a dying declaration, the statement given by a person who is dead, that is admissible. Other that cannot be found, that this is not applicable. Only statement of a person who is dead is admissible in evidence when that statement, either orally or in writing, is regarding the cause of his death or the circumstances of the transactions which resulted in his death. Circumstances of the transaction, not circumstantial evidence, the circumstance, all the transaction, all the events which led to his death. So that is admissible when the cause of that person's death is in question before the court. Whether that is a criminal proceeding, whether that is a civil proceeding, it is a matter. But in English law, this dying declaration is admissible only in criminal proceeding. Again, in Indian law, it has been clarified in this section whether that statement had been given whether actually in expectation of death or not. But as per the law of England, that the statement, a dying declaration, is admissible when that statement had been given in the imminent expectation of death. That is, there is imminent expectation, that is, in all probability the deceased was expecting his death, then that is admissible in evidence. Dying declaration may come in any form, either it may be oral or it may be in writing. Suppose a deceased, he gave a FIR to the police. So there in the FIR he mentioned as to the person who caused his death. Even if in the FIR it has been given, that will be treated, if that is proved, that is admissible as dying declaration. So this orally also, some statement orally somebody is the cause of his death was told. Suppose there was an attack of a particular of the deceased. One witness found him, and when he went there, he narrated that such and such person caused that injury to him. If he died, so even that is a oral statement given to a witness, that is admissible in evidence. But that must be in clear words. There must not be any contradiction in the statements, either in the court. So that must be, that is also admissible in evidence. So while again, most of the time dying declaration is recorded by the police, in the magistrate. So in the executive magistrate also, they record dying declaration. The law requires that while recording this dying declaration, the person who records the statement, the magistrate records the statement, must be satisfied that he was in a fit condition, this fit state of mind to give such statement. If it is proved that the deceased was not in a fit state of mind, fit state of health to give such dying declaration, then that may not be admissible. That evidence is to be believed with suspicion. There is no rule that there should be corroboration for recording a conviction basing on the dying declaration of somebody. If that dying declaration is believable, is free from any that means doubt, then solely on the basis of dying declaration a conviction can be recorded. So here that is dying declaration. Dying declaration may be by police, even police dying declaration has been, that will be taken into consideration. In various there are circumstances such a statement may be given. This is called dying declaration. Popularly, what is dying declaration? A dying declaration means a statement of a person who is dead regarding the cause of his death or regarding the circumstances of the transaction which resulted in death. When it becomes relevant, that becomes relevant when the cause of death of that person is in question before the court. That is such dying declaration as whatever be the nature of the proceeding, that is either in civil proceeding or in criminal proceeding. In English law, that is admissible only in criminal case. In homicide, that is criminal case. But that in Indian law, but even if a person was not expecting imminent expectation of death, he was imminently expecting his death, even if he had given a statement and thereafter subsequently died, that statement is admissible as the dying declaration. But in English law, that statement must have been given by the deceased while expecting immediate death. While expecting immediate death. That is dying declaration as per the provisions. So this provision says, English law. Second, English law, the declarant must be competent. In the third distinction is that in English law, the person who gives that statement must be competent to give to be a witness. That is, if a child is not, if a statement is given by a child, if it's not competent, that evidence is not admissible in England. So here, the leading case in this subject is Pakala Narayan Swami versus state. In this Pakala Narayan Swami case, all the statements given by the deceased to his wife regarding the circumstances of the transaction which resulted his death, those are admissible in evidence. So here, but dying declaration is admissible, though the declarant is not subject to cross-examination, though declarant may in a state also, that is, may take, because last one to take revenge against. So this is, in certain cases, this dying declaration is admissible. Now, there are other case laws in this subject, but you should understand, dying declaration, who gives a declaration, if it is made, then that person must be in a fit state of mind or good state of mind to give such statement. And that statement must be regarding the cause of his death or of the transaction, circumstance of the transaction which resulted his death. Then in such case, that is admissible in evidence, though that person is not a witness. And that is exception to the rule of hearsay evidence, that all evidence must be, as laid down in provision of section 60 of the Evidence Act, all evidence must be of direct evidence, if that is a oral evidence. So let us conclude this session, because today the weather is not permitting, because there is lot of rain here and there is also lightning. So that's why let us close our session here. Tomorrow we will discuss the other provisions in this Evidence Act regarding the admissibility of evidence, a statement of a witness of a person who is dead, who cannot be found, who is incapable of evidence, or whose attendance cannot be procured because of this undue expense. Let us conclude. Thank you, everybody.